Hello everybody, it's your Peacekeeper coming at you with the next video in our How to Play series for the German battleships. This is the Tier 6 Bayern class of battleships. This class was comprised of 4 planned battleships, the Bayern, Baden, Sachsen, and Württemberg. Only Bayern and Baden were ever completed, however. They were also the last German battleships made by the Kaiserliche Marine, which would be the Kaiser's Navy, as shipbuilding priorities switched from making battleships to making U-boats, as the Germans were finding that U-boat warfare was doing them far more in the war than building battleships was. In terms of combat operations, really only Bayern saw any actual naval action. Operation Albion, which was the naval battle to push the Imperial Russian Navy out of the Gulf of Riga, between modern-day Estonia and Latvia in the Baltic Sea. In the battle, she struck a sea mine and had to return to Kiel to be repaired. Baden never saw any action, but she was promoted to the flagship of the German High Seas Fleet, taking over the place of Friedrich der Grosse. Not the Friedrich der Grosse that's in the game, mind you. Both ships, their ultimate fate was that they were scuttled in Scapa Flow, as with all the German battleships from World War I. However, the British were able to breach Baden before she was sunk. Baden, unfortunately, was sunk as a naval target in 1921. In terms of overall design considerations, they were considered to be very stable in rough seas, and to be of excellent gunnery platforms in the rough North Atlantic waters, which is very important considering where the Germans were predominantly fighting their naval battles. They were also very maneuverable ships, owing in large part due to their rudders and their excellent machinery configurations. This is also the first German battleship in the game to have 15-inch guns. In terms of their real-world performance, though, the British found that the guns were very fast-firing, on average about 23 seconds, compared to the 36 seconds of the Warspite class, which is the Queen Elizabeth's. And they also found that they weren't nearly as accurate, and that they fired a really lightweight shell for a 15-inch gun. In terms of in-game gameplay, this is where things get a little dicey. I say that because it seems to me like Wargaming took the whole very inaccurate a little too far, in my opinion. When playing this ship, it seems like she's feast or famine with regards to shell hits. She does have a 17.7 kilometer top range. However, hitting things at that range is nearly impossible. And that's even with the accuracy module versus the secondary module. On note of that, though, I have noticed that it seems like my games, even though the gunnery feels really quite bad, I still seem to do about 80,000 damage on average with her, even in really what I consider really bad games. It's just that when you get that juicy broadside target, it just doesn't seem like you're doing really any damage because you only hit with like 2 out of the 8 shells. And that gets really frustrating, and that carries on even all the way into up close and personal fights. I mean, I was in a true proper brawl with the Congo, and literally could not hit the Congo at about 5 kilometers, and I was aiming right in the center of the hole along this, what would be this deck on the Congo. So I don't know what's going on there. The gun just feels weird. As was said in the real part of this, the ship is very maneuverable, and for a ship of her size, 630 meter turning circle with an 11.1 second rudder shift, she changes directions really quick. However, she does lose speed in a turn really quickly. Thankfully, she does have a relatively fast top speed of 25 knots, something which the real Bayern could not have achieved. They were set at 22 knots. In terms of armor, you can pretty much count on this being exactly the same as the preceding classes, and from here pretty much on until the end. Still a turtleback armor scheme. There is a healthy amount of armor on the actual armored belt portion, The problem is this upper deck here, it does have 170 millimeters of armor. Unfortunately, not necessarily German battleship shells, but battleship shells tend to punch right through this, and you get a lot of white damage. Not very many citadels, but a lot of white damage. And as a result, these ships take a lot of damage from pretty much all sources. That's been typical of the ship line since the Nassau all the way at Tier 3. Also, her gun turrets tend to not turn very quickly, and they will struggle to keep up with the ship in a turn, which makes brawling with her very difficult, and that's even with the Captain Spec with Expert Marksman to help speed up the turret traverse. So I don't know what else is going on there. And overall, this is my least favorite of the German battleships. I think I would rather suffer through Nassau for Tier 6. I'm not saying we should put it at Tier 6, but I'd rather suffer through the Nassau again than ever make this grind ever again. And I know I'm not the only one. So it just goes to show that there are at least people out there that agree with me in that regards. This isn't my favorite German battleship by any stretch of the imagination. Alright, let's talk about stats. She has 51,600 hit points, a boatload of armor, and once again, really poor torpedo protection, 21% damage reduction. She does have 15-inch guns. There are 8 of those guns in 4 turrets, 2 fore, 2 aft. She does have a lot of secondaries. She has 12 105mm guns, configured in 3 in each side in dual turrets. And she also has 10 150mm guns in the casemates here. Their firing range is a little bit difficult to tell about. In a full secondary spec Captain with the secondary spec flag, 7.9 kilometers. Without the flag, 7.5 kilometers. With the secondary spec Captain, which I don't have advanced firing training on this Captain yet, so that's why the range isn't there, you will see 7.1 kilometers without the secondary battery mod 2. So still quite a bit of range, just not a whole lot. Not quite getting to the ridiculous levels that are about to come, certainly better than any of the US ships, especially at this tier. The main battery does fire out to 17.7 kilometers, however, like I said earlier, the gun accuracy at that range simply isn't up to par. If you actually go and look at the stat, it says 223 meters for the maximum dispersion. I don't believe that number. I really don't. These guns do not feel like they have that tight of a shot pattern. To put that into perspective, the New Mexico has a slightly worse, it's 233 meters dispersion, and it feels far more accurate at 17 kilometers. In terms of anti-aircraft defense, this boat has a lot of anti-aircraft guns, and it does really good, owing in large part to the dual-purpose 105mm AA guns. Again, there are 12 of those guns. So there's 3 of those on each side, and they do work. We'll just go with that. It also has a boatload of these 37mm flak filings and 20mm flak feelings. All of these mid-range AA guns come into play at really close ranges, so most of your anti-aircraft is being done by the dual-purpose mounts. And boy, do they hit hard. As we talked about earlier, she has a 25-knot top speed, which is 3 knots faster than the class was ever planned. Although I should point out that Sachsen and Württemberg were planned to have a 23-knot top speed, had they actually been produced, owing in large part to advances in machinery configuration as well as machinery type. She has a 630-meter turning circle, 11.1 second rudder shift time. Her detection range is 13.4 kilometers by sea and 10.9 kilometers by air. Relatively stealthy boat. Not the stealthiest, but relatively stealthy. In terms of upgrades, main armaments Mod 1, still the standard. In the second slot, you can go one of 2 different ways. For me, I find that Aiming Systems Mod 1 just helps put those main guns just a little bit more accurate. Just enough to make the ship tolerable. The other option is we do have secondary battery modification 2, finally. And that is an option that does increase your range of your secondary batteries by 20% and it decreases the dispersion of them by 20%. That's a huge upgrade for them. Obviously, damage control systems mod 1 and steering gears mod 2 for the decreased rudder shift time. Let's go to the battle video. It's a pretty interesting video. It's 4 kills, I believe, and like 85,000 damage. Not the best game in it, but it does demonstrate a lot of the capabilities of the ship. So let's go to that video. Alright. Let's get this battle rolling. As you can see, this is a tier 7 fight. However, the tier 7s in the match are only cruisers. So, not really... Oh, I guess there is... No, I was right. It's only the cruisers. So, we do have a lot of Kongos on our side. I wonder which of the 4 we have. It doesn't really matter too much to me, but you know it is what it is. And of course, it is shards. This map is my least favorite map that Wargaming has put out since Two Brothers came out. Two Brothers is another absolutely awful map design. It wouldn't surprise me if these are from the same designer. The way this map is supposed to work is people are supposed to go to the open side to them. So if you started in the north, you're supposed to go A and B. If you started in the south, you're supposed to go B and C. When teams don't do that, things get real ugly real fast. And in this battle, their entire team decides to go to C, but they don't go into C until really the last minute, and like one at a time, and they just get picked apart. Like I said, this is a 4-kill battle, not quite enough for the Kraken. I was praying for it and asking for it at the end, but didn't get it. That's alright though. About 84,500-ish damage. Really, though, while this isn't the greatest, best game that I have, I do have one that's like 107,000, 108,000 damage that I could have shown. It was a defeat. Showed the ship a little bit different. Didn't really care for the way that the ship play worked out. I may throw some of those in at a later date, but right now I think this video does a pretty good job of demonstrating what I really like and don't like about this ship. Alright, off in the distance we got a Miyoko. He's 17.1 kilometers out. He is getting slightly closer to us, so in theory our shots should be getting more and more accurate. He disappears. I only get 3 of my 4 turrets off. Look at that shot dispersion. I know it's really hard to see thanks to the really bad map color choices. Do land 1 hit for 3,500, 3,600 damage. Now in B is obviously a destroyer. That can't be a cruiser already. And that means we gotta be paying special attention and employing our WASD hacks. Nice lovely graphics glitch there from the game. Thanks for gaming. And shots out on a Kirov that's sailing broadside to us. And Bayern dispersion. For the record, that's 3 hits. 1 bounced on a broadside Kirov. I don't know what it bounced again. 1 overpen, which is the 1,000 damage that we did, and 1 normal pen, which took out his turret, or disabled his turret temporarily, I guess I should say. Thank you, Bayern dispersion. Got some aircraft there. We want to make sure that we go ahead and we focus them. Another shot out on that Kirov. You definitely want to shoot down aircraft with this thing if you can select them. It's got enough AA, and that is one thing it does demonstrate really well. Looks like we overshot the broadside Kirov. He must have turned in. But the AA on this ship is really, really strong for its tier. It's actually better in a lot of respects than the New Mexico's is. And that's been a recurring theme, and that will continue all the way up until Tier 8, when finally the North Carolina takes over in the anti-aircraft department. Another broadside salvo out on the Kirov, and this one is going to yield us a Citadel. But interesting that we get no shell hit ribbons for that, just the Citadel shell hit. So, huh. I'm not going to complain. 10,000 damage taken off of that poor, poor guy. We're going to traverse our guns over to the right-hand side as we come up to the C point and try and catch ships in the middle there. As you can see their whole battle line and how it's developing, how it's really failing to develop. You can also see that there is a ship coming into C. It is a Congo. Of course, the hallmark of every great team is a lot of communication. We're going to go ahead and see if we can't maybe sneak a shot at one of these two cruisers, see if I can't get another broadside, but unfortunately that's not going to happen. I can shoot through there, but those shells wouldn't get there in time. So we're going to look at Mr. Congo. He's giving us a pretty good broadside here. We'll go ahead and take our shots off at him, and we're going to start angling ourselves in here. 4,089 damage. Not a whole lot of damage. That was in one hit and one overpen. And this is where the maneuverability of the ship really comes in handy. Look at that miss. I don't even think that would have been really all that close if I hadn't been turning. I can see the torpedoes, so we're going to hold off and see what's left of him, if anything. And looks like he's still alive, so we'll go ahead and secure the kill, aka kill steal. And first kill of the game! Woo! Yep, that was a pretty shameless kill steal. Down goes one of our Congos to a Fujin. That's no good. Alright, next victim of the day. It looks like a Miyoko is coming into the channel. This one-by-one tactic really doesn't work, so if you ever encounter this map and your team is wanting to push through a point, the whole team needs to start pushing through at pretty much the same time. When you don't, your ships just get picked off one by one. That's really what happens in this case. Again, making sure to select those torpedo bombers with our anti-aircraft guns to make sure they have priority. They can't shoot out at 12 kilometers, but if they come close, I want to be prepared. Mr. Miyoko is shooting AP at me. Hits the armored bow for only 2,000 damage. And then turns into a broadsiding scrub to accept all the damages. And down goes the second ship right now. Yep. As you can hear, our AA guns are going absolutely nuts with the fighter squadron that was over top of us. We are at our second aircraft of the game so far. Certainly no Cleveland with defensive fire up level, but it is still pretty potent. And now we're going to get those torpedo bombers are coming into play into the range of our anti-aircraft guns, and they're going to do some work. Oh, take that, Mountain. Didn't like you anyway. There goes another aircraft. We're up to 3. And another aircraft. And there goes the last one in that group. Too busy trying to turn to try and shoot down those other ones, but we're still shooting them down anyway because they're the only thing in the air. And look at that. Nice torpedo beats. I think Eurobeat would be happy about that. Eurobeat being ATSF, for those who don't know that. I don't know why you wouldn't know that. But, ATSF has some really good videos on his channel. I quite enjoy them. We're going to keep our guns pointed off to the left here because we're going to, again, circle around using our epic maneuverability to get through the shell fire from that New Mexico. We're going to go around the north side of this island here off to our right. And there's another dodge from incoming fire from some battleship. And let's see. No, Mitsuki is still behind the island over there, so guess it's Mutsuki. Sounds a little bit more blurred together, a lot less interesting, I guess you could say. Here's our friend the Kirov. We citadeled him once. Can we get around 2? Who wants to take a bet on whether RNGesus grants us this? Looking good, and 1 overpen. Like I said, there's something with the guns on this thing. The guns and I don't get along. Ooh. I don't know if that was Fuso or Congo. Either way, bounce, bounce, bounce. I got armor, dudes. Mr. Kunish, are you going to go ahead and give me a good broadside? No, no. We'll go ahead and focus on Mr. Fuso since he's a little bit better profile. Shot out, and 9 kilometers, 3 hits. 9 kilometers and 3 hits out of 8 guns. Really not good accuracy. Not good at all. I don't... like I said, the ship gets very frustrating at times. I don't care about you, Kirov. Go away. We got a broadside Congo. He's looking at me! Turn away! Well, there's a good solid hit. 5 out of 8 shells hit for 15,000 damage, basically. We're going to go ahead and get our secondaries, make sure they're targeted on him. They are. No aircraft in sight. We got a nearly dead Cleveland that needs to be taken out of this fight. Lots of people shooting at my tail end. Guess they don't anticipate the speed of this ship. Secondaries are finally opening up. This Cleveland's going to get taken out here. But you can see the secondaries are going to town for just the brief a second that they are. The secondaries are pretty accurate even without the accuracy mod. There's that armor going to town for me. And once again, Congo is opening up broadside to me, just completely ignoring the fact that I exist. Gotta fire with those secondaries. If I had the advanced firing training and full secondary spec, this would be very interesting, but unfortunately I don't. 8,000 damage off the Congo and 5 hits. So you can see how we went from 4 hits and 1 overpen doing 14,000 damage to 5 normal pens doing 8,000. What? I don't understand how we managed to get those 2 things. And we're gonna throw her into full reverse and try and turn here, and really shouldn't have gone into full reverse. If I would have had just a little bit more speed, I wouldn't have taken that one in the bum. It's alright, we got our damage control party up, so I'm not too worried about him. Fuso, you've become the new target. And 1 normal pen for 3,600 damage. Like I said, these guns don't have big damage rolls. For 15-inch guns, you would expect just a lot more coming from these guns. And they just don't have the big damage rolls that you'll see like on the US 14-inchers or the British 15-inchers. Again, another 4,000 damage with the normal penetration. Our Kirov is still broadsiding us, so we're going to punish him for that. But, you know, you occasionally get those big Citadel hits and you'll do a lot of damage, or in the rare case, like in that Congo, you'll do a lot of white damage. But there goes the Kirov, finally. Go ahead and use our repair party here and get some of our hit points back. At this point, we're up to 4 kills and 79,890 damage. Let's see if Fuso will give me the Kraken. I don't know if he's doing this on purpose to try and broadside, but he does end up opening up slightly, so I don't know what he was doing there, but alright. Now, again, 3 hits, 10 kilometers. I mean, we're just talking about guns that just aren't very accurate. If this was in New Mexico, that Fuso would be in a world of hurt. An absolute world of hurt. But that's the end of the match. And the final battle loading screens here. As you can see, 84,576 damage, 1,385 base XP, and I don't have the other battle screens to show you. But that's alright. This has been the Tier 6 Bayern. If you guys have any comments, throw them down in the comments section. Like I said, this ship and I don't really get along, so I'm not terribly pleased with the ship. The gunplay just doesn't seem to be adequate for me, even though I'm still getting the big damage numbers. You know, my average damage in the ship is well over the average. I just feel like the ship is lacking. Like, I feel like I get more consistent performance from the New Mexico or the Warspite versus the Bayern. And it's not that the Bayern is an absolutely awful ship. It's not. It's just that for a brawling ship, its close range accuracy is just atrocious. You saw the shots. You guys judge. Throw it down in the comments if you agree with me. I'm your Peacekeeper. As with always, like, comment, subscribe, guys. Thank you very much for watching.